Hi, I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. My channel is dedicated to helping victims of narcissistic abuse get free and stay free. Before I get going with this video, I just want to take a moment to thank our friend Liz very much for your donation to our channel's PayPal account. Your donations keep the channel going and keep the channel growing. Thank you, Liz. The other day there was a comment left by our friend Christine. Hi Christine, thank you so much for your comment mentioning Dunning-Kruger syndrome, and I want to talk about that today. Dunning-Kruger syndrome is really quite a fascinating concept because on one hand it really does explain a lot about narcissistic behavior, but on the other hand it also explains a lot of behaviors that empaths will execute. And this makes it quite unique because it really does umbrella the behaviors of both narcissists and empaths. Now, though Dunning-Kruger syndrome does clearly display both the behaviors of narcissists and the behaviors of empaths, its common ground is people's inability to recognize their own behaviors or to be more self-aware. It is a limitation in self-awareness. Very simply put, Dunning-Kruger syndrome is a person's inability to recognize their own level of competency, to recognize your own limitations, be it intellectually, physically, creatively. It is a sign that anyone, is lacking self-awareness. Over the 2 years that we've been together here at Kim Wilson TV, many of you have implied that you believed your narcissist to be intelligent. And I've always begged to differ because I believe to be truly intelligent, to be critically thinking and enlightened, to be reasonable and logical, you have to have a certain level of self-awareness, certainly an ability to self-regulate emotionally, and narcissists simply do not have this. I've never believed it to be intelligence, but rather I see it as a heightened ability to mimic, to mirror, and to replicate the behaviors of an intelligent individual. Narcissists are natural-born predators. They're always on the hunt, always on the prowl, always looking for new supply. Now, to acquire new supply, you have to trap new supply. And the way they do this is by mirroring the targeted individual. So their ability to mirror and project something that they're not becomes highly developed in them. I believe it is this predatory behavior, this ability to extract information from targets and to mirror them, that gives them the ability to appear to be more intelligent than they actually are. I think we'd all agree that there's a million ways a narcissist can hide their incompetency. It's often, shown to us in the form of gaslighting and projection, blaming, shaming, humiliation. They will take all of their own self-loathing, spin it, and dump it out on us, causing us, of course, to feel the way we've all felt. I mean, absolutely humiliated, shamed, confused, disorientated, sick, angry, anxious, panicked. I mean, I could go on and on. But it is this ability to mirror and project and fling everything back on us that disenables us to see them for what they really are. It's like we're in this constant bombardment of bullshit, and it really does mar our vision. Now, for empaths, and I don't want to go on a lot about how Dunning-Kruger syndrome plays out in the lives of a narcissist. They are constantly trying to camouflage their own inadequacies, their own incompetency. So we get that. But it also plays out quite significantly for empaths because it is similar but kind of the opposite for us. What's actually happening is rather than feeling overconfident, displaying a sense of self-entitlement, self-righteousness, overinflated egos, often for an empath, it will look like we are shaky in our decision making, or insecure, or unable to set firm boundaries. And in many ways that could be perceived as true, but I think there's something else going on here. And I've been doing some research on it, and I'm going to see how you guys feel about this. So on one hand, Dunning-Kruger syndrome will cause an ignorant person to absolutely, unabashedly act out in a really ignorant way and feel completely justified and self-righteous in doing so. But on the other hand, it has an opposite effect on an empath or an intelligent, critically thinking person. Now, you have to be fairly intelligent to second guess your behavior. You have to be somewhat self-aware, somewhat critically thinking to say, hang on a minute here. Is this the right way to proceed? How will my actions, words, or behaviors impact other people? Is the timing right? Is this financially feasible? All of these things that could be perceived potentially as second doubting yourself, maybe questioning yourself, but it also could be perceived as really good, logical, practical thinking. Now, we've all seen the narcissist, especially once injured, just fly into that rage and death fight with no boundaries, no limits, straight into the gutter, massive dumpster fire, where empaths are not likely to behave that way. Why? Because of the Dunning-Kruger syndrome, where you are now going to be saying, okay, this is what I feel like doing, this is what I'm kind of being pushed to do, but I need to rethink this, I need to reassess, reevaluate, consider my options, and in some ways this can be seen as doubting your own intentions or doubting your own motives. But on the other hand, this can be seen as highly intelligent, critically thinking, because we should be cautious when we're doing things that could truly impact our lives, impact the lives of our family or the people around us. Now, many people have said to me that well into their recovery, they still second guess themselves. But is that really what's happening? And the fact that Christine brought this up really helped liberate me in many ways, because I do often second guess myself. I will often proceed in certain areas with extreme caution. Now, if I consider the narcissistic abuse, I consider the gaslighting and the cognitive dissonance and all the confusion and shame, and I consider how I was feeling and how I was thinking and how truly confused I was, and then I consider 3 years of healing, which it's been around 3 years now since I've been away from Trevor. And now I look at my life today and I look at myself as second guessing myself, maybe needing to reevaluate a situation. Is that the lingering effect of gaslighting, or is there an invisible transition where we go from being the product of gaslighting, where we go from truly being, out of our minds, crazy, and not thinking rationally, where there is an invisible transition where now we are critically thinking, but it's still kind of playing out the same way because it looks like self-doubt or a lack of confidence or a lack of direction, when really what it is us becoming critically thinking, enlightened individuals again. The product of healing, taking the necessary steps, and really taking bold steps at moving forward. I don't think there's anything wrong with proceeding with caution. I don't think there's anything wrong with real self-exploration and really wanting to know that you're making the right choice, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your children, for your home, for your loved ones, for your future, for your career, for your hobbies, for things that are important to you. And when you've been in a state of self-doubt, and you start to heal, and you've transitioned over this invisible line where it is no longer unhealthy, toxic self-doubt, but is now becoming healthy, self-aware self-doubt. I think there's a very big difference there. And I know for me, there have been many aspects of healing that felt like I was dragging residual of narcissistic abuse with me. And this may be one area where I did feel that the self-doubt was lingering. But I've got to ask myself now, and thank you, Christine, for bringing this up, because since I started looking into Dunning-Kruger syndrome, I've come to recognize that there is a healthy transition, almost an invisible line, where it really did transfer, really did morph from being self-doubt stemming from abuse to now healthy questioning of our own motives and actions and speech, something healthier and something that's really starting to look like healing versus residual of narc abuse. Really ignorant people never second guess themselves. They don't question their level of competency because ignorant, incompetent people believe themselves to be competent. You have to be of a higher level of intelligence, a higher level of critical thinking to stop and say, wait a minute, am I doing the right thing? What are the potential outcomes of my behavior, actions, words? And this self-exploration is a sign of great healing, great inspired thinking versus residuals of narcissistic abuse. Now, I'm going to admit that day to day, I do doubt myself. I stop and reflect on what I'm doing. Even when it comes to making jewelry or new product lines that I'm creating, I will often stop and reassess. Now, I guess I could continue to feel like this lack of confidence, if you want to call it that, stems from narcissistic abuse. But since Christine brought this up, and I've looked into Dunning-Kruger syndrome, I'm now quite fascinated by the concept that what I might actually be doing is planning my life in a more cautious way, taking a moment to reflect on how my actions or even products could be perceived by people at large, how the things I do and say could affect other people. Now, I'm not suggesting you get stuck in any of this, but I certainly don't see anything wrong with self-reflection. I mean, we've all seen the behaviors of a narcissist, and holy cow, we don't want to be flying off the handle like that. And I think that there's something really positive, and I think it's a really great sign of personal growth, self-exploration, and healing when you have the ability to stop and say, wait a minute, what is the potential outcome of this behavior? What could potentially happen as a result of the things I'm doing or saying? And I think that's a great sign of personal growth. I think it is a sign that you're being restored to healthy thinking, that you are being reasonable and logical. Because I'll tell you, in the 5 years I was with Trevor, wow, did I lack the ability to make good, reasonable choices. Ignorant people have no way of recognizing their own ignorance. Incompetent people have no way of recognizing their own incompetence. If you're feeling a bit insecure today, maybe lacking confidence, not sure how to proceed, this is not necessarily a sign that you are being impacted by residual narcissistic abuse. This could in fact be a sign that you are making great strides towards healing and self-awareness. Now, Dunning-Kruger syndrome, also known as the Dunning-Kruger effect, clearly outlines that to recognize that your decision-making may not be intelligent and competent clearly depicts that you are more intelligent and competent because you have the ability to process this information and to be more self-connected and self-aware. So if you are feeling like you're struggling with decision-making or heightened levels of confidence today, that may not be a bad sign. In fact, that could be a sign that you are on the right path. I just wanted to share that with you. And again, Christine, thanks so much. I'm Kim. You're watching Kim Wilson TV. I hope you guys are having a great narc-free day.